my computer glasses on. My name's Moshe. I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Perhaps you heard of the Galilee. That's where I live. And today is Friday, Yom Shishi, the sixth day of the week. It's on Gregorian calendar, Friday the 5th of January. It's 10:14 in the morning. Our weather is, I was sitting outside and it started drizzling, but I don't think we're going to have any serious rain. But I took my chair in just in case. It's 60 degrees now. We'll hit 66. The afternoon is supposed to be sunny. So anyway, it's a little nasty right now, and it's of course the house stays cold. Enough on that. Let's do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. I'm going to jump into the live stream chat, make sure everything is good, do a little housekeeping, and then we're going to get started. And today is going to be extremely solid meat. Extreme. Okay? And I'm not going to do everything in one shot, so I'm going to give you a small piece, not such a small piece, a good sized piece today, and you'll like it. Referencing Jubilee and Shemitah year, and where it fits into current times today in these present days, and how soon everything is coming. You'll like it. You'll like it. Okay. But I got to do my little housekeeping here, which doesn't take long and gives people a chance to jump in, to get in. And most people don't come into the live stream. And I don't think we're going to have a lot of people coming in today. There's a lot of intel I have that I'm going to start with, what they call intel, and it's pretty big, but I didn't want to announce that in the title because I'm only going to spend a few minutes on it, and I don't want people coming in to get the so-called intel, and then they're going to go clean their guns and take care of themselves, and they don't have any interest in the Lord. Almost there. Okay, we're set. So what happened on the intel front? Well, some hours ago, not time. So it's still in breaking news and details are lacking. You got to understand that, okay? Having some soup. Warm me up. North Korea fired over 200 artillery shells at two South Korean islands, which are sort of like the border between North and South Korea. South Korea evacuated the islands. The water where the shells were fired at, according to most mainstream media from other countries, America, I don't think has a story yet, was landing in a maritime zone belonging to South Korea, thus violating it. Okay? Now, there's one guy who's kind of iffy, and he reports that some of the shells landed on South Korea Island and showed some pictures from an Asian newspaper with Korean writing on it that the shells were hitting the island and clouds of black smoke were rising up. Now, if you're going to land an artillery shell in the water, you're not going to see clouds of black smoke rise up. I don't think you'd see that. I think the shell would just go in the water. I'm not so sure the shell would detonate when it hits the water, but it could. So this guy's probably speaking the truth with this picture. While it's possible it could be the shells landed in the water right near South Korea, I think they actually hit the land. And South Korea is calling to evacuate these islands. Now, is this going to provoke a war? Not designed to do that, I don't think. This is the snare at work. What it's designed to do is scare America. They have a base on South Korea that in more peaceful days was holding 28,000 soldiers. And of course they had airplanes and everything else. And the base has moved down considerably from North Korea, so they don't believe the bulk of the rockets and artillery would hit the base. Now, I don't know how many soldiers they have there now, but it would be reasonable to assume it's been increased and due to current tensions. And on these army bases there, and I have not heard of them being evacuated, but they could have been quietly evacuated. So, North Korea, you see, in the snare, to simplify things, I see three levels of countries. The top tier are Russia and China. They certainly don't want to be invaded and have to deal with Americans attacking their homeland, blowing up their palaces, and all that. They don't want that. So China has been provoking America, and America's been deploying lots of Navy ships over there, helping Japan with weapons, and I believe there's troops there. Now, Japan has stated numerous times that if there is an attack on South Korea, they're going to get into the fight against China. China and Japan don't like each other. I learned that from studying Japanese and Chinese martial arts. This is going back. All right, 50 years. I was living in San Francisco. I, at that time, was studying Kung Fu from some guy in Chinatown in San Francisco who was also an acupuncturist doctor. And one or two other non-Chinese people were in the class, but I was treated quite nicely. Nobody was nasty to me at all. And I used to go watch the Kung Fu movies in Chinatown in the Chinese theater, and they had them subtitled in English. Most of these were Shaw Brothers movies, which came out of Hong Kong. And there was tremendous resentment in these movies and hatred towards the Japanese. And they were depicting the Japanese as picking on the Chinese. The kids in the class would always tell me that the Kung Fu was better than the karate. I didn't understand back then that all these systems are just a ripoff to keep you in the schools. It really takes perhaps 6 months, 2 hours a day to learn real martial arts from scratch. Okay? The systems are nonsense. They tell you have to learn how to do all these things you're never going to use in combat. To learn to fight in combat, where the Kung Fu people do the same thing, but they give the students more practical combat tools right away, which the Japanese don't do. Anyway, that's how I learned about all this resentment. And from talking to the Chinese kids, which are middle-aged people now, about, I see the resentment towards the Japanese. Curiously, when I was studying karate, I was somewhat younger in New York City. Back then, there was still a lot of World War II vets running around. They were not that old. This is in the 60s. And I met a guy that was stationed in Japan after the war. And he told me he went to a karate school there for 2 years. And the instructor never spoke one word to him. So back then, there was a lot of resentment towards America from Japan, but that went away. Anyway, this could have the effect of causing America to deploy more resources, airplanes, boats, troops, planes, into the Pacific region. This is the snare. Now, Biden has a good alibi to do it, so he sends more troops there and thus weakens America. He gives them more military equipment, thus weakens America's stockpile of military equipment, rockets, bombs, missiles, etc. The countries that are potentially under threat would be South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Guam, and the Philippines. Okay? North Korea and China are very close. So the top tier is China and Russia. They're the big powers. Then you have a second tier. And the second tier are the countries that are not sophisticated militaristically with technology, aircraft, and a navy. Okay, they don't have lots of submarines, they don't have aircraft carriers, they don't have a lot of destroyers, missile cruisers, and things of that nature. So in that grouping, what we really have is Iran and North Korea. They have missiles, artillery, things like that. They're crazy. And they are semi-disposable assets. If they could preserve them, they will. But if need be, and America has to be drawn into the snare, they will revert to sacrificial lambs. For America to combat North Korea and Iran at the same time, leaving China and Russia out, leaving Ukraine and Russia out, leaving the Middle East out, would be a tremendous, massive strain on America, requiring very large numbers of military and ships and planes and everything to do a ground invasion to knock them off, just get them to stop fighting. North Korea has a lot of stuff embedded inside mountains, and I'm sure they have tunnels and underground bunkers, as does Iran, and that makes missiles and aircraft mostly ineffective. If they know exactly where the tunnels are and they want to drop $1 million and multi-million-dollar huge bombs, they can do that. But they don't have that many of those, and they'd run their inventory dry before they destroyed all the tunnels. Look at what's going on in Gaza. It's day 90, I think, and they're still managing to squeeze rockets off. Israel is not considered a slouch power in the world militaristically, but it's not a Russia or a China either. America's the top dog. Okay? Now, if India got into the fracas, which I don't see it, but if they did, then they would be rated with Iran and North Korea, maybe a little higher up, but they wouldn't be China and Russia. You know, Russia has a huge Navy fleet, lots of airplanes, thousands and thousands of tanks, big military. China has a huge military, tons of planes, 3 aircraft carriers, lots of Navy boats, and so forth. The people in the army in China and North Korea are crazy, and in Russia, not so crazy. Then you go down a level to the 3rd tier, and these are pure disposable assets. 2, Russia and China, Iran and North Korea. And those countries, well, or whatever you want to call them, would be the Houthis in Yemen, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Hamas in Gaza, and the Iraqi and Syrian militias that work with Iran. Now, there was that satchel charge explosion in Iran that was remotely detonated, and it killed over 100 people and wounded way more than that. ISIS took credit for that. Iran is refusing to accept it, and is still adamant that Israel had a hand in it. And they might be insinuating America too, but they're saying Israel, even though ISIS took credit. Now, ISIS said they did it because of the way Iran betrayed Hamas in Gaza, just let them out to dry. So ISIS is probably not in on the snare. They're attempting, I think, to get Iran to respond stronger to protecting Hamas in Gaza, and to some extent Hezbollah and the Houthis, I guess, too. Now, so there's a division in these countries, which is the way the Lord works. A house divided unto itself shall not stand. So it's safe to assume they're kind of doomed. Now, the idea here is, and Biden is in on it, is to draw the American military away from America leaving it open for an invasion, and leaving it more open for sleeper attacks, Trojan horse attacks from the migrants. And the government and the news media are leading the people to believe that these sleeper agents and Trojan horses are going to do terrorist type actions. Not explaining to the people that they have enough of these migrants in there to form armies and take over American military bases, which is the real plan. So I wouldn't expect them to go to your house and throw Molotovs. Oh, they could, as a terrorist distraction, march on neighborhoods, burn houses, shoot people, and protest in the street and kill cops and people. Yeah, they'll do all of that probably, but that's not their crux. That's just a decoy to get the people's attention away from the real threat. I don't know any survivalists or preppers or any of those people that expect the military bases to be overrun. The snare is also getting America to draw down or use up or give away their military supplies, artillery, bullets, bombs, everything like that, right? Anti-missile missiles, all that. They want to get that run down. Leaving America more open. So I don't think the provocation is enough to cause a serious attack on North Korea, but I think it is enough to scare Japan and Taiwan and so forth, and perhaps cause America to send more military ships, planes, and equipment over to that region. If it's not enough, then North Korea will amp it up more. Now, America is not likely at all to attack China because of what North Korea did. Just like they didn't attack Iran, knowing Iran is backing the Iraqi and Syrian militias that are attacking American bases in Iraq and Syria. So the Iraqi and Syrian militias are analogous to the North Korea's role in this thing. So they don't care about Hamas, and that's why Iran's not going over there to help them. Basically, Hamas is a lost cause. Israel's not going to sit still if they send 20,000 soldiers to go help Hamas by going in through the Mediterranean or something like that. Israel will blow the boats up. Iran doesn't even have anything resembling a navy that could escort 20,000 or 50,000 soldiers to go to Hamas and help them and sustain the American attacks. I expect every single Navy ship they had would be destroyed before it offloaded anything into Taiwan. China keeps threatening Taiwan by almost daily surrounding them with Navy ships and violating their airspace with planes at the same time. One day, what looks like another scare may turn into a real attack. But I'm not so sure China wants to attack Taiwan right now. It would result in America probably attacking the Chinese homeland. They just want to provoke and scare America to keep deploying military assets away from America. Which could explain why has not annihilated Ukraine yet. Because it's getting America and a lot of NATO countries to draw down on their military supplies, their backup. If Russia gets rid of America, as in the daughter of Babylon destroyed in Jeremiah 50:51, they could go back and knock off you any time they want. They don't have a problem. So they're not going to knock their lights out. Taking down Ukraine, they just give it enough aggravation. Where America keeps spending, deploying weapons and giving it to them, and all that. Same with NATO countries. So then Russia sends enough of their low-level soldiers, recent draftees, in there to fight and get killed, and they don't care. Russia doesn't care. And now the latest is to try to suck America into the Middle East. Now, the coalition against the Houthis has risen, I think, to 21 nations. And so they're going to take probably at least 2 more weeks to get it together and get their ships into the Red Sea. Now, their plan could be to escort convoys of ships, like 20 or 50 or 100 ships with several Navy warships to knock down missiles and drones and stuff like that. Or it might be to just hover all around Yemen and take missiles down as Yemen launches them and just let the ships pass. Now, this is not going to stop the Houthis. I told you that the Houthis are not going to back down out of fear for the threat from America with aircraft carriers and stuff. And they didn't. And the American Military Command said they were warning the Houthis to stop, but they see no signs of it reducing. So, and there was another attack yesterday. So they're going to try assembling a lot of Navy ships down there, which I would say would be probably about 30 right now, and try to scare the Houthis, which isn't going to work, and shoot as many of their missiles and drones and naval drones down as they can, and again try to scare the Houthis into stopping it, and then they've got to do an invasion. Now, with 21 countries, if they average 3,000 per country, some countries may give 5 or 8 or 10,000, some will give 1,000 or something, They could put together an army of 50 to 75,000, which would probably be sufficient to knock out the Houthis on the ground, even though they're underground and in tunnels. Of course, a lot of these countries have a lot of sophisticated weapons they could use. Okay? Now, I'm thinking it'll take them at least a month or maybe 6 or 8 weeks to do it, not that long. Because they got very advanced technology and lots of it. And they're equipped to do, foreign beachhead landings in other countries around the world far from home. Israel's not. And Israel's still having trouble with Hamas in Gaza. But see, Israel is facing a ton of public pressure. Oh, you got to send fuel in there, You got to send food in there, and then Hamas gets all the food. So they're providing their enemy with food and giving them fuel. which you could say in the scriptures would pour burning coals down on their head, and I think the scriptures are right. And Hamas is certainly suffering. And as I've told you, on around August 1st, the year of recompenses began, give or take a few days, and you could see what Hamas is getting when they attacked us. Okay? They've already suffered. All right, so that's what happens with the North and South Korea thing. We're just going to have to wait probably some hours till we start finding out for sure what really happened over there. In either event, it was pretty much just to drag America deeper into the snare, and they would love to see NATO countries come over there as well, which makes their job easier in Europe. Okay, so that's it for the current events. The intel is over. Let me check the chat and we'll go to Bible. Somebody said missiles too. I didn't hear missiles. I heard artillery. I don't know. You got me on that. I don't know. It's possible, but I heard artillery shots. All right, Jubilee year. Now, this is going to be a solid meat Bible study. I'm sorry. I'm going to simplify this as best I can. There's going to be a lot of oohs and ahs. And I'm going to point out some things to you that I have not yet worked out because of time constraints, and some things I have worked out. And I'm continuing to do this. When I show things, some of the things I show you, I'm going to say, well, I'm not entirely sure about this yet. And some of the things I am. And, you know, when I see direct scripture support, then I'm thoroughly sure about this, okay? Now, let me take care of this first. We have a toss request for Mike. Toss request for Mike. Okay? Toss request. We have a prayer request for PC. Papa Charlie. PC Papa Charlie. Prayer request is healing for the abdomen and a sinus infection. So prayer request for healing for PC Papa Charlie, for the abdomen, and I think the abdomen is kind of muscle stuff, I think, and a sinus infection. Okay. So where I'm going to start here is, I want to reiterate, I've gone through, there's a lot of people that did this, that worked this out back in the 60s and the 1800s and way back. Everyone I came across had a lot of fatal errors in it. Not fatal, but serious errors. One guy I came across in the 60s actually was able to predict, and I think he's correct. Shemitah year being in 2024, which I'm going to show you is very, very consistent with what I was shown by the Lord. All right? And we'll do that today. Being able to trace the Jubilees from when they started, I have not gotten deeply into that yet. But I'm going to show you the scriptures where it's assumed that they start, and I'm going to show you some possible objections to things. The bottom line is, yeah, it's 2024. Okay? But Daniel 9:24 is greatly confused by these people. And the guy that got it right, it's a miracle to me that he got it right, but he appears to have gotten it right. And he believes that Daniel 9:24 says 70 weeks and represents the weeks to mean a 7. So the analogy there would be 77s, which they say, I don't know, they say it's Shemitahs, but it's not right, okay? It doesn't say that, okay, in the Hebrew, in all the Hebrew texts, the whole lot of them. Yet in every English text, it says it. And I only know one translation, Smith's Literal Bible, that actually got it right. And this particular female, I think, did it in the late 1800s or very early 1900s. And she saw it as 70/70, which is what it is. And she put that in her translation. Now, the important thing to remember is this Daniel 9:24 is the kingpin for phony prophecy like Schofield and Darby and stuff, right? It's a kingpin scripture they've created, Daniel 9:24 to 27. All right. So this woman named Smith self-published her Bible. So he went to it. She went to some printer. She gave him the pages, the translation pages, and said, "Make, give me 10,000 books, 20,000, whatever it was." And the guy probably didn't even know what the heck he was printing. He didn't care, or maybe he did, and he printed it. And then I think she sold and distributed them. And her work has a lot of errors in other places in the Bible, but this one she got right. Now remember, these people are not Kohanim, they're not descendant of Aaron. It says the people shall seek the Lord at their mouth, representing the priests, which the word is Kohanim, the descendants of Aaron. If you're a descendant of Aaron, you're also a Levite, okay? And that's not them, none of them that I could locate. So they're not going to get it right, okay? It would be wrong. But the Lord took me there to show me things about how they did the calculations that opened my eyes to a lot of things I was aware of, okay? So somehow this guy in the 60s got it right. Amidst all his efforts, he figured it out and he got it. I believe he got it right. So it says 70/70, Shavim. The word's identical. It means 70 twice. Now, I thought that it meant 70 the first time, because it's two 70s, the first time representing Babylon captivity, which I still ascertain is correct. And the second 70, it doesn't say weeks, it doesn't say 70, it says Shavim, which means 70 in all the Hebrew Bibles. So there's two 70s, and it never occurred to me that the second 70 was Jubilee or Yovel in Hebrew years. Okay? But the Lord showed me that's what it is. All right? Just like the Lord showed me that the year of recompenses and the year of redemption are not exactly different. As the year of recompenses is running, the year of redemption will start running. So recompenses will close out, be complete and finished after 360 days. And then the year of redemption, depending when it starts, will run 12 360-day years from that date. So it should push over into 2025. It says 70 upon thy people, that's Israel, Daniel's people, and upon thy holy city. And I thought that the second 70 started when they got the holy city back, thinking it was a 70-year period, and I was wrong. So disregard all the previous Bible studies I did on 2036 of the great day of the Lord, and that was based on that second 70, and that's not what it is. It's 70 Jubilees, which is called the Golden Jubilee. All right? Now, if you want to put questions up in the chat, you can. Now, I want to do some credibility with you here. On this setup, I'm not sure, but I haven't resolved the problem with the iPad shifting around yet. I basically fried my brain last night late in the evening, in the afternoon, trying to work through this again. And it's very, very difficult. Okay. Ezekiel 45:21. In the first, and they add the word month, in the 14th day of the month, you shall have Passover, a feast of 7 days. And let's just stop and look at the 7 days. The word for seven there is not Shavim, it's Sheva, which means seven. Okay? And in the first month means it's called we call it the month of Abib, or the first month. Now, a lot of these people that go through this use the Hebrew names of the month, which makes it a little bit more confusing. So today we're just going to basically deal with 2 months, the first month and the 7th month. So I will give you the names in Hebrew of those 2 months. So I don't see the point of going through every month. So the first month is Nisan. Now these names appear in the Bible, and a lot of people say not to use them because they picked them up in the Babylonian captivity. Well, whatever the case may be, the Bible uses them. So Nisan's the first month. Call it by slang the month of Abib, meaning the barley is ready. Now, as you know, my wife goes around and inspects all over Israel for the barley and calls it. Now, the month is going to go down if the barley's ripe or not ripe. It says without the barley, you don't appear empty before the Lord. Well, my analysis of that runs like this. By having the barley not ready, it's a way of showing the Israelites that he is angry at them, and they cannot appear before him empty. So either they would go, and that's violating the Torah. So they would be in jeopardy of losing the blessings of the law, which the church doesn't really understand any of that stuff. But they lose all the church understands. So Yeshua died, I'm going to heaven because I believe he died for my sins, and that's nonsense. Faith without works is dead. It's just absurd, but that's what they believe, and that's their problem. Okay, so Nisan is the first month, and the 7th month is called Tishri, I believe. And so we might be using those words a little bit. Nisan, month 1, Tishri, month 7. Okay? So by showing you Leviticus 25:10, I'm showing you the word shaver means 7 over there. All right? And the word shaver does not appear in Daniel 9:24. It comes in as shavim, which means 70, but shaver doesn't mean weeks either. Let me keep going. Jeremiah 25:11. Now there are millions of instances of this. I just cut a few. I just picked a few. I think I said 25:11. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babel 70 years. Now, the word for 70 here is shavim. It's correctly translated. Why they don't want to use the second 70 to mean the same as the first 70 in Daniel 9:24 is an intentional twisting of the scriptures. I'll be right back. Whoa, slow down. So this Daniel 9:24 twisting of the scriptures is to keep you off the right path. Remarkably, the guy that figured this out was using 70 weeks, but somehow he managed to stumble onto the truth. So as I retrace his steps, I have to be super duper careful because he's not walking in all the light. But yet he discovered. Ironic. Now, how could all these guys out there teaching, and they're always showing you what the Hebrew word means, right? The false teachers. Yet they couldn't figure out that Daniel's 9:24 says 70. This is a mystery to me. Did you conceal it from them? It's hard. You just got to look at the text in Hebrew. I don't think so. Maybe they don't want to go against the mainstream. I don't know. Probably Satan more than any other reason. Okay. Let's go to Zechariah 7:5. Speak unto all the people of the land and to the priests, saying, when you fasted and mourned in the 5th and 7th month, even those 70 years, did you, no, chief, it's not good for you. Did you at all fast unto me, even to me? Okay, so he's talking about the 70 years of Babylon. Now, the Strong's word for that is 7657, which says Shavim. So here they get it right, and the other places they get it wrong. I call Satan on that. You see what I'm saying? I know I'm right on the 70. And I know they're wrong. And why this is the kingpin twisting the scriptures in prophecy. Now, what they call the 7th, shut up, chief. The 7th, they insert the word month. It says mourned in the 5th and 7th. The word for 7th is 7637 in the Hebrew, which means it's Sheva, it's 7. See what I'm saying? They get it right, except where it's a real kingpin scripture. Daniel 9:2. Now, I just picked a few examples. There's tons of them. I know you don't read Hebrew. I do, and I'm not lying about this. You could look it up in a Hebrew Bible and just compare the words. No, Daniel 9:2. In the first year, the word for first is echad, which means one, and the word for year is shana, which means year. Okay? Now they translate it wrong in the rest of Daniel where it says, anyway, of his reign, Daniel understood by books the number of the years. Now the word for years here is again shana, which is the word for year. If you're 50 years old, someone said, how old are you? You would say, Yeshli Hamashim Shana. 50 is Hamashim years. Whereof the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem. Okay, so that's the Babylonian captivity. The word for 70 here is Shavim, the correct word for 70, right? And the word for years is the correct word, which is Shana. You see, this alone tells you something serious here because of the cover-up. Okay? And these are the days of Elijah, so Daniel's being opened. Now, we also see this in Jeremiah 29:10. I could have easily found a dozen or 2 or 3 dozen extra examples, but we'd be here all day. For thus saith Jehovah, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my word towards you in causing you to return to this place. Okay. After 70 years, the first 70, what happened? They had an exodus back to Israel. Not the first, another exodus. Because they got killed or were in Babylon. So it says after 70 years. The word here is Shavim for 70. Years, correct, Shana. See, they get it right all over the place. So the translators knew the meanings, but they twisted it on purpose. It's in every English Bible. Twisted. It goes back into Wycliffe and Tyndale, actually. Except Smith's Bible, because she self-published it. So she didn't need the approval of the publishing houses. The publishing houses would never publish a work that was going to contradict the main teachings of the church. Because they'd get on the naughty list with the church, and they wouldn't want their people buying any books from them. Their church bookstores, a lot of churches sell books, wouldn't buy anything from that publishing house. They'd want them to go out of business. Okay? They wouldn't want them around. And they'd tell their people not to buy that book. So the church with their 501c3 garbage is very economic. I will visit you and perform my good work towards you, causing you to return to the place. So what happened at the end of that 70 years? They returned to Israel. So what I'm telling you is in the year of redemption, which, to cut through the chase, is going to begin on the 10th day of the first month, which is going to be the beginning of the next Jubilee year. And I'm going to keep developing that today. Okay, and we're going to see that is the second Exodus, which will happen after Zechariah 12:10 and the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. They should be in the second Exodus too. And we're also going to show you some reasons why the dry bones will be there also. So I have a lot of good stuff that I'm pretty solid with, but I have some stuff that I'm not done with yet. Some of them say that the 70 is to be multiplied by the 70, which is not how you do it. You would say 4,900, you would say Arbor, Aleph, Teshuvah, you would be saying 4,900. You never would say that. It's just absurd. And they should know better, but they don't want to know better. They want to twist it. Okay. So they have 4,900 year theories, and, forget that. Now let's go to Leviticus 25, verse 2. You're going to start liking this. Leviticus 25, verse 2. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Shabbat of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for Jehovah. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of his own account. Okay, so if you're going to take notes, make a note of this. Leviticus 25, 2 to 4. Okay, because we'll be using this. And in 25, 2 says, come into the land I give you, that's Israel, then shall the land keep a Shabbat unto the Lord. So it doesn't start until Moses, Aaron, and the children of Israel come into the land, which we're going to cover. Okay? You with me? That's when it kicks in. All right? And 6 years they worked the land, and but in the 7th year, that's the Shemitah or the Shabbat year, and the word here for 7th is Shavi. It's the word Sheva with a yud at the end, and it means in English the 7. Without the yud at the end, it's Sheva. With the yud at the end, it's Shavi, which means to us 7th versus 7. Okay? Now, we need to keep reading Leviticus 25 while we're here. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of thy vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land. And the Shabbat of the land shall be meat for you, for thee, and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and thy hired servant, and for thy stranger that sojourneth with you. So everyone that was living with the Israelis would have to be observing all the Moedim. And for thy cattle, and for the beasts that are in the land, shall all the increase thereof be meat. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years. Now notice how clear this is. 7, which is the word, I'm checking everything, Sheva, means 7. And then it says years, which is the word Shana, which means years. And the space of the 7, and again, that word means Sheva, 7 Sabbaths, and that word is Shabbat, as you know, to be Sabbath. Of the 7 Shabbats of years, and the word for years is Shana. Again, everything's crystal clear here, right? Of course, the church witches didn't get to it. Shall be unto thee for 49 years. Now, the word 40 is arborim. 7 is Sheva, 70 is Shavim. Arbor is for Arbim, no ratio. Arbim is 40. The im at the ending gets it to be 70, 40, 50, 60. It's the TY stuff. Got it? Shall be unto thee 40 and 9. So what it says here is the word for Tesha, which means 9. So it's Arbim Tesha, 49, and then it says Shana, years. Okay? All right. Then shall I cause the trumpet of the Jubilee, and the word for Jubilee is teruah. Okay? It's an alarm, it's blowing a trumpet. And this goes on the 10th day of the 7th month. Now, the word for 7th is Shavi, which is 7th, which is Teshri. Now, don't ever check the rabbi's calendar. I'm just using the names. That they have dates all messed up. Ignore their calendars. On the 10th day of the 7th, and it says month, Kodesh. Now, this is an interesting thing. Kodesh means new. In the Hebrew calendar, it's an observable calendar. When you spot the new moon, it's a feast day. They should be spotting it out of Jerusalem, but we spot it from here, and my wife does, and coordinate it typically most of the time with people in Jerusalem. Okay. But it could possibly happen that Jerusalem is overcast and rainy, and we would see it in the Galilee, and they wouldn't see it there. So I'm not going to get into all that too much. But I think it's valid if you're in Israel, I think. Then shall thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month, in the day of atonement. That's Yom Kippur. Shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. Now, when are you making the trumpet sound? Well, in the previous verse, it's talking about 40 and 9 months. 9 years, 49 years. And you shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. Now, it says here for the 50th, Hamashim, which is the correct word for 50th. And the word for year is Shana. Now, there's some things I'm a little sketchy on yet. I'll keep going with the text. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his. So the question is that comes up is, on the 10th day of the 7th month, Tishri, is that when you blow the trumpet? Does that begin the Jubilee or the Yovel year, or is it just announcing the coming year, or is it just announcing that at that time the people should be returning the property that other people sold them and should be giving it back, because the Yom Kippur is the day you examine yourself. You don't fast. It's you examine yourself to see how you're complying with the Lord and the scriptures and stuff like that. Okay. They just want you to fast. They don't want you to examine yourself, compare your behavior to the scriptures. So they just tell you to fast. We go through things. I know some Orthodox, what they do is they start cutting their coffee down a week before. If they're at 2 cups a day, they go to 1.5, 1.5, a quarter cup, so they don't get the headaches during the fasting, right? And then they'll gorge themselves just before the holiday starts. So if they normally would eat, let's say, a quarter pounder and fries and a soda, I'm just picking a generic example, then they would eat, 2 or 3 quarter pounders, 2 or 3 orders of fries, and gorge themselves. So they wouldn't want to eat probably for 24 hours. See how they do it? They're always kinking and twisting things, but it's not a fasting. It's not that. you afflict yourself, you convict yourself of what you've been doing wrong. How am I treating my workers? How am I treating my maid? How am I treating my beasts, my animals? How am I treating my family? How am I doing this, that, right? Okay. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession, and you shall return every man his family. Now, return unto every on the 10th of the first month. Well, we're getting the land back. Who has the land now? Well, the covenant for the land in Genesis 15 says from the Euphrates to the Nile, and I know in other places the Mediterranean is our border, and I assume the Persian Gulf is our border also. Our side of the Persian Gulf, not the Iranian side. That's how I interpret it. Now, the countries that I get that should be affected by this having squatted on our land are exclusively Muslim, maybe all but two or three are Muslim majority. Okay, and this is the count on that. I'll read them to you because I got it in my head. West of the Euphrates River, or the left-hand side, right, for the geographically challenged, it's Turkey, Iraq, and Syria, but just to the left or the west of the Euphrates River. It's all of Lebanon. It's all of Jordan, what's called Jordan today. It's all of Saudi Arabia. It's all of Yemen. It's all of Oman. It's all of the UAE, Dubai, they call it, right? It's all of Bahrain and Qatar and all of Kuwait. Now, shifting to the other side of the Red Sea, it is Egypt east or to the right-hand side of the Nile River. And the Nile River goes down to Lake Victoria quite a ways, past Yemen quite a ways. And I've studied the archaeological history and stuff, and the Egyptians had all the way down into the Lake Victoria area had been posting or building, whatever you want to call them, you know, their pyramids and sphinxes and junk like that. So they were there. And would also include South Sudan and Sudan to the right or the east of the Nile River, and it would be the same for Kenya and Uganda to the right or the east of the Nile River. And it would be most of, if not all, well, you could look at a map, Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, the Djibouti. So it's a good 100 times bigger. All these places are occupied to almost to every one almost, are Muslim majority countries. So we would get the possession back, which is the land that he promised us by covenant. But he said to Abraham and his seed, and Peter explains the promises were made to seed of one, not seeds. It wasn't seeds, it was seed. And that seed is Yeshua HaMashiach. And only those in Yeshua. If they're not Israelite born, they'll be here on the second Exodus and get this inheritance also. Because the people in Yeshua are to be treated the same as the native born in Israel. But the only ones that are going to get this land are those that are in the seed, in the Yeshua. Only the believers, and that explains the 2/3 getting cut off. And Ezekiel 34, the bad shepherds and the rich fat cows getting cut off. I'll be right back. You see how I'm starting to put together the fit, and this is the kind of Bible logic that I love. So if any of you want to check my discourse on the words 77, Shana, and seventh, I'll tell you a very easy and free way to do it, because I know you don't speak Hebrew, is you go and you download e-sword.net. e-sword.net. And it has modules. After you install it, you can download. You'll have to hunt around and you'll see it. And there's a module for they call it the Hebrew OT. It says Hebrew OT for Old Testament Plus, and that's the one that has Strong's numbers in it. Download that. Go through the, take notes on this Bible study, and look up the scriptures I gave you a few moments ago, and you'll see you could verify everything I told you. Now, if you want to do it on an Android, because eSword I don't think has every platform. I have one on an Android here, and I'll tell you the name of it as soon as I find it. I got a lot of icons here, and all these things are free, by the way, so there's no money at all. You need internet, you need a computer or a tablet or a phone or something, but I gotta find where this thing is. It's on my phone somewhere, but where? And for some reason, unbeknownst to me, all these years, my icons pretty much jump around every few weeks or months, and it doesn't make. Oh, it's called My Sword Bible for Android, and it has a similar thing. Let me put in Daniel 9:24 to make sure it's going to do the job. Daniel 9:24. It says 70 weeks, so you punch in the 70, and this will show you the Hebrew characters. It says original. You can see, and it has the Hebrew characters. Shavim. Now, then you go back to the other place where they call it weeks, and they give you a different Strong's number, but in this case, they screw with Hebrew. So this is no good. They say that the original, they give you three choices, and they're all wrong. No, this one stinks. You can't use him. He's twisting. See, Satan it's his church, okay? Get that down. And his church does what he wants. So, anyway, you can't use that one, but eSword works. I think I have another remedy for this too. Hold on, let me look it up. Where you could easily get the Hebrew. I'll check it very quickly. Right. It's this place you can access on the internet, and it has interlinear Bibles. And it's called Scripture with the number 4 all.org. But let me navigate it, and it's not wanting to navigate. Why? What's wrong? Oh, I think I got it straightened out. Yeah, okay, I'm on the Hebrew. You want to go to the Hebrew interlinear, and then you want to find the book of Daniel, and then you hit chapter 9. And then it's slightly awkward, but not very bad. Then you got to look for the numbers in the Hebrew. You see the Hebrew, and then you see a transliteration showing you how to pronounce it, and then you see the English. Now they don't have the 70 interpreted correctly. They screw it up. Maybe they're in on it, or they don't want to kick against the grain, or they don't know any better. I'm not sure. And you got to keep looking for 24. And remember, Hebrew goes from right to left, but they're so screwed up. They wrote the Hebrew left to right. I mean, it's nuts. Okay, but you can look at that and you'll see that the two words are identical in the Hebrew. You just go one character by character. Okay, there's only 5 characters. And then you'll see that they show you the transliteration the same, Shavim. Well, they got the vet as a bet for some reason, so they're saying Shavim. And then you see under that they have the English, and it says 7s and 70s. So they screwed with it. Okay. So my parents sent me to Hebrew school for 4 or 5 years before my bar mitzvah. So I lived across the street from the schoolhouse through grade school. So I had to come home, which only took a few minutes. You had to walk to the corner because you had to cross at the green and not in between, and they had monitors. And I crossed and I came home, and my mom would have some, I don't know, a little snack for me, milk, cookies, and depending on the weather, and then I would change my clothes because back then we had to wear leather shoes. You couldn't wear jeans, and you had to have a shirt with a collar, and you had to have a tie. Absurd, but that's how I grew up. So I'd get out of those clothes and put on jeans and sneakers and some kind of shirt, and then I'd walk was about 3.5 blocks away. And then I would sit down and they would start the class, and they taught us how to read and write Hebrew. But the jackasses never taught us how to translate. So the Hebrew's not hard for me. Okay, I went for years like that, for years, but they didn't teach the translation. Could you imagine anything stupider than that? Okay, they didn't want you to understand the Hebrew. So back in Leviticus 25, verse 13, in the year of this Jubilee you shall return every man unto his possession. Wait, did I jump ahead too fast? Yeah, I did. Let me back up. So we're in, let's say, Ezekiel 25:10, and you shall hallow, make holy or sacred, the 50th year, and proclaim liberty through all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. So remember, he accepts you in the land of Israel. So it's only going to apply to Israel, and that's why there's the second Exodus, so you can get here. Are you going to get here before this declaration or during it? And probably during it. But let's keep reading. I said probably, unto all the inhabitants thereof shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession. Well, the Lord's going to return our possessions to us, the land. Remember, we sold ourselves for no money, so he's going to redeem us for no money. Redeem in the Jubilee year, we get our possession, no money. And you shall return every man unto his family. Now, you'll like this one. Where do we see that? This is I'm going to tell you where you see it, but it's rather solid meat. Okay. It's in Malachi. I don't remember if it's 3 or 4. Let me look for it. It's in 4. And 4 verse 5. Behold, I will send you Eliah, which kind of means like he belongs to God, Elijah the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Well, the great and dreadful day of the Lord is not Zechariah 12 because none of the Israelites are getting killed there. The bad ones are. So you could say the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Let's check those words. Gadol means great or large. Let's see how Strong treats the word. But I know the word Gadol. It's like, I would call mommy dog Kelev Gadol, big dog, and I would call Chief or Yafa Kelev Katan, small. So Gadol is sort of the opposite of Katan, which is small. So it means, let's see what Strong says. It means older, insolent, elder, exceeding, great, matter, thing, loud, mighty. He gives quite a few meanings of it, but I know it to mean big or great. And the word for dreadful means fear. Boy, I think I'm onto something here. What's Strong say? He's talking about the great fearful day. To fear morally, frightened, to be afraid. Now, the words for great and dreadful day, the word for day is yom, okay? And yom is, it means day. I mean, that's it. That's what it means. Day, the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Now, let's go into Zechariah. This is exciting. Zechariah 14:1. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoils shall be divided in the midst of thee. It doesn't say the dreadful day. You're going to have fun with this one. So, what is the great and dreadful day? Is it the great day of the Lord? Well, I'm starting to think it's not. I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm pretty sure it's Zechariah 12. Because that's Jacob's trouble. Because when you go to Jeremiah, this is getting good. See, this is the kind of Bible work I like doing, not dealing with dates, which I don't. Jeremiah 30, verse 9. I don't think I got the right verse. Maybe it's 11 or 12. Let's see, I'll find it. It's in Jeremiah 30, which is not a very big. All right, we'll go through the chapter and I'll build a strong case for this and you'll love it. And I love it. These are the days of Elijah. Okay, the word that came to Yeremahu or Jeremiah in English, there's no J in Hebrew, but anyway, let's move on. From the Lord, from Jehovah, saying, Thus speaketh, I'm so excited what I just got shown. I'm telling you, I'm ready to go over the moon. Thus speaketh Jehovah Elohim of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken thee in a book. For the days come, saith Jehovah. Now this is days plural. Let's check the word. Well, I'd have to check the Hebrew. It should say yomim, but let's just keep going. Saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity. Well, I want to check this verse in the Hebrew. Jeremiah 33. Give me a moment. Verse 3, right? Hine. I was right. Yomim, days plural. It says, Hine, here comes, or comes, days. Go in. I'm checking this stuff in the Hebrew. I don't trust these jerks. Declaration, prophet, okay. Declaration of Jehovah. Veshu, wait a second. Return or turn back. It return captivity. Is that the word? Where did it go? Wait a second. Where were we? Okay, let's get back into it. It says Yomim. I just wanted to check, and that's what I thought it said, because you wouldn't have day singular Strong's, which is posting day singular or something like that. So I think I'm in Jeremiah 34, verse 4, or something like that. I will cause them to return to the land I gave their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words that the Lord spoke concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus, so it's concerning all 12 tribes here, although basically just Judah is in the land now. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not peace. Is that not meeting the test of the word dreadful? Come on. Hey! No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it does. Ask you now, and since praise the Lord, not me, he gave it to me. Ask you now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail? That means clutching your guts, right? The woman in travail is the water broke, the cervix is dilated, and the baby's head is crowning, and here comes Junior, right? And all faces are turned into paleness. Well, that would be a dreadful day, would it not? Praise the Lord. Give him a hand. Come on, you got to be enjoying this. Wait till I get to the finale of this one. Oh, you'll go over the moon too. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. That is the great dreadful day of the Lord. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Jacob is not getting saved out of Gog and Magog. They go into captivity and stuff like that. Real believers are saved out of it. They have a mark placed on their forehead back in Zechariah 9, and nothing bad happens to them. So half of Jerusalem goes into captivity, and that's the times and half a time, which I've told you a million times. No pun intended. The first time is Egypt, the second time is Babylon, the third time is Rome, 70 AD. 200,000 allegedly went into captivity to Rome, slaves and so forth, and the half a time is Zechariah 14, and it's like verses 1, 2, maybe 3, where half of Jerusalem goes into captivity. That never happened before, it will never happen again. Yet to happen, still unfulfilled. And the remnant remain. They don't have to go anywhere. They got the mark on their forehead and nothing bad will happen to them, which takes you to Zechariah 9. So to understand Gog and Magog, which is the great day of the Lord, forget what the church jackasses teach you. You have to study Ezekiel 8 to 11, which is the same event. And then if you want to pick it up after that, you jump over to Ezekiel 43. Okay. Alas, for that great day, that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Now, what about the 2/3 that get cut off? Well, they're cut off before the great day of the Lord, because you don't see them, the great dreadful day of the Lord. You don't see them there. There's no IDF, there's no democracy, there's no government. It's just the poor, busted down, trodden out people. And the two witnesses are running the show. They're in place as the chiefs, the judges. Isaiah 1, he says he's going to run Israel again with the judges, like at the first, which is Moses and Aaron. They were also prophets. The two witnesses are the two witnesses, and they're also prophets. So it's them that are going to be running Israel. And that should be before the end of February. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Come on. Isn't this good? Alas, for that day is great, so that none, and that's why we're getting all these revelations now. In the days of Elijah, if you got eyes and ears, if you don't got eyes and ears, pray for them. Alas, for that day is great. If you want to check my references, by the way, I have two references. Father God Jehovah and his firstborn son, Yeshua HaMashiach. Please go to them about me. Please. I'm not saying if you want to. I'm asking you to please do it. Okay? It'll help you. It is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Yaakov. It's not Jacob. There's no J in Hebrew. They take the Yud, which is pronounced Yah, and they make it into J's. Why the heck they do that is beyond me. Okay. It is even the time. I mean, why should I spend a lot of time trying to figure out why they do it? They do it in its error. Is even the time of Yaakov's trouble. What is the word for trouble? Let's see what they say. Why is this not clicking? Try it again. Doesn't want to click. There we go. Distress. The word is distress. Great distress. What was the word that had great? I gotta remember where I was before. I'm getting old. I was in Malachi 4, wasn't I? I think. Or I was in Zechariah 12. Wait a minute. I don't remember now. I'm getting old. Dreadful. So dreadful is pretty close to distress. So the word is 3372. Oh, I gotta find Jacob's trouble. Jacob's trouble is a different word. Okay, I was trying. But he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass. So it's a dreadful day. Why? Because in verse 11, well, wait till we get there, we see all the nations he dispersed the Jews into getting destroyed. And the 2/3 are getting cut off. And the bad shepherds and the fat cattle are getting cut off. So it's definitely a dreadful day. For it shall come to pass in that day, it's a day, Jehovah of hosts, saith Jehovah of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck. That is probably the government of Israel. But it could come before. See, it says, I will break his yoke from off thy neck and will burst thy bonds. It's both, I guess. And strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. So the subject matter points to strangers, foreigners, no longer serving themselves of him. So I think that the Ezekiel 34 happened before this day. And this is the people surrounded to lay siege to Judah and Jerusalem that got burned up. And they shall serve Jehovah Elohim and David Melech king, who I will raise up unto them. Therefore, O my servant Yaakov, saith Jehovah, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee. Dismayed. What does dismayed mean? Don't be shattered. Well, let's see what Strong's refers to it in English. Break down, don't freak out, something like that. Dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, 2nd Exodus, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. Okay, that's the Israelites. And Yaakov shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee, yet I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. For thus saith Jehovah, thy bruises is incurable, and thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up, and now with no healing medicines. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. I think we're there. They say, America's not our lover. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. Why criest thou for thine affliction? The sorrow is incurable, and the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto thee. Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured. Year of recompenses. And all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. Year of recompenses. Notice they're going to ship the people from Hamas in Gaza out of Gaza because there's not very many houses left in Gaza. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for prey. So you can, from the news, there's a lot of countries that comprise Greater Israel that are about to bite the bullet. For I will restore health unto thee. Health. The word is 724. It means more like restoration. Let me read it. It's the eternal life, that's what it is. I will restore health unto thee, and will heal thee of thy wounds, the eternal life. So you're going to have a new body. You're going to have the flesh body with the heart of flesh with the word in it. They shall all know me from the least to the greatest. Okay. Saith the Lord, because the fullness of that comes after the Zechariah 14, the great day of the Lord. This is the great dreadful day of the Lord. Because they call thee an outcast, saying, this is Zion, or in English Zion, whom no man seeketh after. Well, that's the case today, isn't it? Thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will bring again the captivity of Yaakov's tents, and have mercy on his dwelling places, and the city shall be builded upon its own heap. It remains still in its own place, and the palace shall remain after the manner thereof. That would be the temple. It's called the palace because the glory of God lives in there. And out of them shall proceed thanksgiving. Oh, we have no idea what that kind of thanksgiving is going to be. It's going to be like nuclear thanksgiving. And the voice of them that make merry. Oh, yeah. And I will multiply them. So that means we're going to be having children, even though we have this new body. And they shall not be few. Okay. And I will also glorify them. Arise, shine, your light has come. And Isaiah 60, the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee, and they shall not be small. Like Moses was glowing, you'll glow. But yeah, kind of like that, but even better. Their children also shall be as aforetime, and their congregation shall be established before me, and I will punish all that oppress them. And that begins in the year of recompenses, which we're nicely into, about halfway, I think. And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governors shall proceed. That's the chiefs, those are the two witnesses, shall proceed from the midst of them. So the two witnesses have to be living in Israel. And John the Apostle's still here, and Elijah's here. They're both waiting for the light to turn green. Shall proceed from the midst of them, and I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. For who is this that engaged his heart to approach unto me? The two witnesses, they came down from heaven. They're the sons, they're God's anointed sons, like Yeshua, who happens to be the firstborn. He wouldn't say firstborn if he was the only one. The only begotten means he was the only one begotten the way he got begotten of the Holy Spirit and a flesh woman. Begotten means you got, how did he get, it's the only one that ever would be that way. And you shall be my people, and I will be your God. Behold, the whirlwind of the Lord goeth forth. That's a tempest, a storm, with fury, a continuing whirlwind that shall fall with pain upon the head of the wicked. The fierce anger of Jehovah shall not return until he have done it, until he have performed the intents of his heart. In the latter days you shall consider it. Okay, so I've given you more than I thought I was going to give you, but it's pretty good. Leviticus 25 back there. I don't know, we're around verse 10 maybe. And you shall hallow the 50th year and pronounce liberty throughout the land. What is liberty throughout the land? Well, he takes the yoke off our neck, the internal yoke, Ezekiel 34, the government of Israel, and the rich fat cats, and that pick on you and run the banks and all this junk, right? And also the foreign yoke, the UN, America, all these countries, right? So that's the liberty, right? You getting this? Liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. That means you've got to be in Israel for all this good stuff. That's where he accepts you. That's where he accepts you. Shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession. That's the land he promised by covenant to give us. And you shall return every man unto his family. Now, this is going to really be good. You're going to love this stuff, okay? So where do we see every man come into his family? We see it in Malachi 4. The coming great and dreadful day of the Lord, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers. Remember, we're getting the land he promised to the fathers, to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Who are these fathers? The dry bones. Now, they might be 25 generations removed, but biblically, they're still your father. Can you dig it? Where am I now? So that's return every man unto his family. The tribe, you'll be living by tribes. When they divide the land, the tribes will all be clustered together in the same piece of land. So that's another way of looking at it. That's found in Ezekiel 47, the last three verses. The fullness of this will be after the great day of the Lord, not the great and dreadful day of the Lord. A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. You shall not sow, neither reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather the grapes of thy vine undressed. For it is the Jubilee, it shall be holy unto you. You shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. So you don't prune and tend the land, you just go eat it. In the year of this Jubilee, you shall return every man unto his possession. Well, since we got into this mess without money, we get it back without money. The God redeems us, which is speaking of the possessions, the inheritance, without money. So we get our land back that I told you they took away and occupy. And if you think America and these other people aren't bringing all kinds of war toys and troops and ships here to protect us from getting that land back, well, you're not seeing the same way I am. That's what they're really here for, too. They want to keep us from getting that land back. But I'll give you two reasons why it's not going to work. Elijah and John the Apostle. Burn them up. And if thou sell aught unto thy neighbor, or buyest aught of thy neighbor's hand, you shall not oppress one another. And that's why the 2/3 are getting cut off, because they love oppressing each other in Israel. According to the number of years after, now they'll follow Shabbat, they'll follow Yom Kippur, they'll fast, they'll go to the synagogue, and they'll oppress and rip off and scam, rob, take advantage of their fellow Israelites, and that's why they go bye-bye. According to the number of years after the Jubilee, this is to calculate the buying it back, but we're not getting it back with money this time. It's a freebie, and you're not going to have a mortgage. You're going to have your house and your land. It's yours for free for you and all your descendants. Thou shalt buy, according to the number of years after the Jubilee, thou shalt buy thy neighbor, and according to the number of years of the fruits, he shall sell it unto thee. So, depending on how many years you have left until the next Jubilee, determines the price you sell it to a guy if you need money. So if there's 5 years left to Jubilee, you're going to get a small price. If there's 41 years, you're going to get a big price. According to the multitude of years, thou shalt increase the price thereof, and according to the fewness of years, thou shalt diminish the price for price of it, according to the number of the years of the fruits doth he sell unto thee. You shall not therefore oppress one another, but thou shalt fear thy God, for I am Jehovah Elohim. Wherefore you shall do my statutes and keep them, and my judgments and do them. I'm reading this still. In 20 it says, and if you shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow, nor gather it in our increase. All right, let me get a break for a second and come back and do this with you, because this is a kingpin scripture to understanding Jubilee year. Big important one. I haven't eaten anything all day, so I'm munching a little bit. Ugh. No, I'm not sharing this with you. It's not good for you. Okay. And if you shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow, nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and you shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. And you shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year, until her fruits come in, you shall eat of the old. So speaking of the Shemitah, the 7-year cycles, the Shabbat cycles, as some call it, it tells you to sow in the 8th year. Right here. And you shall sow the 8th year. That's in Leviticus 25:22. That's one of the ones you want to write down. Leviticus 25:22. Now, there's 7 Shemitahs, 49 years, till you hit Jubilee. If Jubilee started the year after the 49 Shemitah, it would be the 8th year of the Shemitah, where you sow. But it tells us not to sow in the Jubilee year. So we have a paradox that we have to work through. And the paradox is, how the heck could the Jubilee year follow the last Shemitah? Because it tells us to sow in the 8th year. If we follow that model, 7 Shemitah cycles and then a Jubilee, the year later we would be sowing, of course it's the 8th year to get our food, right? But we would be violating the Jubilee year because it says not to sow in that year. Now let me find that scripture. If you try to consider the Jubilee year as an independent year of the last Shemitah year, you would be sowing in the 8th year of the Shemitah. And you can't have that. So you're getting it? Okay. I have it in my notes. I'm trying to find that scripture. Let me see. I don't know where I wrote it down. Let me see if I can look it up. I was sure I wrote it down this morning. I don't know where I put it. Leviticus. Okay. I was right here. A jubilee, that 50th year be unto you, you shall not sow. There it is. Okay, I'm sorry, I was right in front of me. Neither reap that which groweth of itself. Okay, so you can't have the 50th year as an independent year following the Shemitah year. So now we have a paradox. We have to solve it, which I'll do. Then verse Leviticus 20, 25, 20. And if you shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow, nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and you shall bring forth fruit for the 3 years. You shall sow the 8th year. We covered that. This is speaking of Shemitahs, not Jubilee. And eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until her fruits come in, you shall eat of the old. The land shall not be sold forever. The land is mine. And in all the land of your possession you shall grant a redemption for the land. If thy brother be waxed poor, and hath sold away some of his possession, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. And if the man have none to redeem it, and himself be able to redeem it, then let him count. So, I don't know if you missed this, I think. If thy brother be waxed poor, and hath sold away some of his possession, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. Who is the Redeemer? Jehovah. Is he our kin? Well, we're sons of God. Yeshua calls us brethren, and he redeems it. You getting it? Okay. You could see that in Leviticus 25:25. And if the man have none to redeem it, and himself be able to redeem it, then let him count the years of the sale thereof, and restore the overplus unto the man. So he's saying you just base the price on how many years are left to the Jubilee, and you redeem it back that way. But if he be not able to restore to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the hand of him that hath bought it. Does the word for bought mean bought? Can acquired. Well, the Muslims got it. They acquired it, didn't they? To procure. Yeah, they got it, obviously. But if he be not able to restore it to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the hand of him that hath bought it, although they got it without paying money, until until the year of Jubilee, and in the Jubilee it shall go out and shall be returned into his possession. So that's when we get Greater Israel back, right? Okay. And if a man sell a dwelling house in a walled city, then he may redeem it within a whole year after he sold it. Within the year, he may redeem it. And I don't see the relevance on the city here. And if it be not for what I'm trying to do right now, and if it be not redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it, though through his generations it shall not go out in the Jubilee. But the house of the villages which have no wall round about them shall be counted as the fields of the country, and they may be redeemed and shall go out in the Jubilee. Not with, I imagine the Arab cities don't build walls around the house because the Israelites don't sneak in as terrorists and kill them in the night. Notwithstanding the cities of the Levites and the houses of the cities of their possession, may the Levites redeem at any time. And if a man purchase of the Levites, then the house that was sold and the city of his possession shall go out in the year of Jubilee, for the house of the cities of the Levites are their possession among the children of Israel. And it goes on with the fields of the suburbs. And if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. See, the Arabs never gave us any money when they took our land, so they don't get paid. It just goes back to us. And they disagree with God, obviously. They think it's their land, so he has a controversy with the nations over Zion, and the nations lose. Take thou no usury of him, but fear God, okay, that thy brother may live with thee. I am Jehovah Elohim, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. I think it's really in Hebrew, Kana. Yeah, Kana. I don't know, let's say Cana or Kana. And to be your God. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant, but as a hired, not as a slave or, an indentured servant, just another kind of servant, a looser type of situation, more like a employee, And then shall depart from thee, he and his children with him shall return unto his own family, there you go, and unto the possession of his fathers he will return. For they are my servants which I brought forth. I'm not, this isn't what I'm looking to do today, so let me scan through it. It's a huge chapter. See, a lot of this is not very applicable to prophecy directly because it's showing you how to operate with the Jubilee year for negotiating prices and things like that. And if he be not redeemed in these years, then he shall go out in the year of Jubilee, both he and his children with him. Fathers and the children again, both he and his children with him, to Malachi 4, fathers and the children. For unto me the children of Israel are servants. Okay, and that's that. All right, let me get back into the notes. It's getting good, isn't it? Let me take a look at the chat and see if anything's there that I need dealing with. Most of the maps in Google are incorrect. No, they're getting the Gazans into Africa. They've got some countries in Africa that are going to take them. Jordan and Egypt and them won't take a single one. They don't want to go near them. They know they're the kiss of death. Okay. All right. My notes. See, so the 50th year cannot start at the same time as it doesn't start after the 7th year of the 49th year. The 7th Shemitah is over, because that would give you the conflict over not sowing in the 8th year of the Shemitah. All right. So with the regular Shemitah year, in year 8 they sow because they need food for year 9. So that harvest would be in year 9. So again, there's a commandment to sow in year 8 on a Shemitah year, which if you were going to do 49 and then a 50th year, you'd have a conflict because you're in Jubilee and you're sowing from the Shemitah year, but then you would be breaking the Jubilee year, which says not to sow. So that's your conflict. So in Leviticus 25, 8 and 9, we should look carefully there. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee. That's 49. 7 times 7 years. and the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be for thee, and for thy it shall be for thee 49 years. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month, in the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound through all your land. Now, this is Tishri, the 7th month, and on the 10th day is Yom Kippur, so you blow the show. I think it's a shofar, not a trumpet. You blow it, and this is where you can get sketchy, because are you blowing it because the Jubilee year is coming the following, let's say, late February or March, or are you blowing it because you're in the Jubilee year? And now's the time you have to give them all back their possessions. So let's work on that. The only time you ever blow the trumpet, or the shofar rather, I guess, on the Yom Kippur in the 7th month is when your Jubilee year, your 49 years is finished, your Jubilee year is coming. Normally you wouldn't do it. You would use the first day of the month of Tishri, the 7th month, which would be a Yom Teruah. You wouldn't be doing it on the Yom Kippur, which is the 10th day of the 7th month. We'll go to Leviticus 23:23. I tell you, this is not easy. This will fry your brain. It's tough. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall you have a Shabbat, a memorial of blowing of the trumpet, which is teruah, which is a trumpet, a holy convocation. You shall do no work, an offering made by fire. Okay. So normally in regular months, you are having a Shabbat and the blowing of the trumpet, the teruah, the first day of the month. Now, when you're hitting your Jubilee year, you're not blowing it on the first day, you're doing it on the 10th day. So there's a gap of 9 days. And we're going to see a similar gap of 9 days coming up in a little bit. So the shofar is only blown on Yom Kippur when you're in the 49th year of the cycles. Now we get into something that's rather fascinating. Ezekiel 40, chapter 1. In the 25th year, it's the 25th year of our captivity, okay? So Ezekiel was in the captivity in Babylon. In the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year, after the city was smitten. That's when Jerusalem got destroyed. In the self same day, the hand of the Lord was upon me and brought me. Okay, so let's break these words down. He's in the 25th year of the captivity. Fine, that's not of crucial importance for what I'm doing. In the beginning of the year, and the word for year is Shana, which means year. In the 10th day of the month. So this is pretty interesting. It says in the beginning of the year, but it doesn't say that. It uses the word Rosh, which means head, or very important. Okay. Rosh Hashanah is the day, that's how we say Sunday in Hebrew, the first day of the week, head of the week. Ha is there shown as week. It's sort of means first. Could mean important, highly valued, or something like that, or revered. But in the beginning, it's Rosh of the year, Shana. Now, the rabbis made a New Year's Day out of this for some stupid reason, and don't get off on that. They'll just confuse you like the church people. Forget them. They're cut out of the same satanic cloth as the church people. In the Rosh Hashanah, in the head of the year, I'm sorry, head of the year, in the 10th day of the month. Okay. So when is this? This is a little bit of a challenge. Is it Tishri, the 7th month, or is it the 10th day of the first month, Abib? Let me get my notes. I know that on or about August 1st, 2023, the Lord showed me that was the beginning of the year of recompenses. Give or take a few days, not many days at all, a handful, let's say. So, if we take 12 months, starting on August 1st, 2023, this 12-month period is over at the end of July, give or take a few days. seventh month would be in late August or early September 2024. So I got a problem here because we would have no overlap of recompenses and redemption, plus a gap, so it could be 10th of the first month, Abib, which is in late February or early March. And this takes us to Leviticus 25:2. When you come into the land, it started the Jubilee. They got the land was the 10th of Nisan, 1406. I'm not so sure, but it was the 10th of Nisan, BC, of course. I'm still working on this with the year and everything, okay? So the year may not be good for that, okay. The seventh month Tishri sabbatical year counted and declared on Tishri, the Jubilee only is counted on declared on Yom Kippur, the 10th day of the seventh month. Tishri, so Jubilee declaration is 9 days after the ordinary year declaration, and Jubilee year starts 9 days after a regular year. Continuing years on first of Tishri month 7 is a bit assumptive, but could be right, but I'm not sure it is. Isaiah 37:30. And this shall be a sign unto thee, you shall eat this year such as groweth of itself, and the second year that which springeth of the same, and in the third year sow you and reap and plant vineyards and eat the fruit thereof. All right, get back on my notes. On the 10th of Nisan is when Joshua entered the land, the 10th day of the first month. So this is the big assumption, is that the Jubilee year begins at this date, because they started getting the land back. And that's the Jubilee year beginning, and then they get the land back. So it appears that the 10th of Nisan, or the first month, the month of Abib, in 2024, so that would be someplace probably between March, early March to mid-March, someplace in there, the 10th day of the first month. And that's when we believe it really starts, not Tishri. Tishri, the announcement on Tishri, the seventh month, could very well be something that's done in the 49th year to show that it's coming up. And, I'm not cemented in on the Tishri stuff yet, but I will be soon, I think. Pray that we get it, that I get it right, please. The seventh month, why they are making the announcement of it on the seventh month, that I get that down cold. I'm working on it. I'm gonna take a break for a second. We're gonna try to get this wrapped up. You can see how this is thick, huh? This is heavy duty solid meat. I'm not finished with it yet. There was a reason then that the Lord showed me the year of recompenses began on or about August 1st, give or take a handful of days. And 2 years would overlap. Okay. I don't think we have a good fit with the Shemitah year beginning on the 7th month, 10th day. When Yeshua announced in Isaiah 61 the acceptable year of the Lord, he did not blow a shofar or a trumpet or anything like that. He was prophesying future. He wasn't declaring it then. For a proper declaration, it would have needed to be the trumpet, and it wasn't there. But what he did do was he mentioned Zechariah 9, the coming out of the prison. Okay? By the blood of the covenant. I've covered those with you many times. So let's move on, or I'll be here forever. It's going to get too long. What I am saying is this next Jubilee, which should be in early March, because the year could start late February, early March. So it'll be, and then you got to add 10 days. It's just the 10th day. So the year would begin on the 1st of Abib, and the Jubilee would begin on the 10th. So the year is separate, and there's a 9-day difference. The same 9-day difference you have between Yom Teruah being blown on the first day of the 7th month, and when you're in the 49th Shemitah, it would be blown, I believe, preceding the Jubilee year on the 10th day of the 7th month. Of course, there's nobody here that was doing that at this time. Now, by saying we're going into the 70th Jubilee, I'm telling you we're in the second 70 of Daniel. That's what I'm telling you. Now, both the temples, meaning Solomon's temple and Herod's temple, not Zerubbabel's, were destroyed on what the rabbis refer to as Av. Av is the 5th month. On the 9th day of Av, the 9th day of the 5th month, both temples were destroyed. For simplicity, if we assume March 1st was the first day of the year, which it could very well be, and you count 5 months, it brings us to the end of July, roughly speaking, because we could have a little variance because of the new moon sighting. And this is very close to August 1st, which could have also been, July 27th or something like that. So the 5 months would bring us to the end of July, and when I use that August 1st date, it could have been July 27th or something like that. So the year of recompense would appear to be that it started on or around the 9th of Av, which was, wait a minute, let me get back here. And the rabbi's calendar is off, of course, but isn't that a little bit remarkable also? You got to admit. So I would speculate that the 9th of Av on the correct calendar, the 5th month, the 9th day of the 5th month, was more than likely when the year of recompenses began. And I'm dumb enough I didn't record the exact date. Maybe we could pray that the Lord gives me the exact date. You think this is a coincidence? I don't. So let's go back to Daniel 9:24, and then we'll wrap this up. Let me check the chat, and I'm not done with this. There's a lot more to come. And of course, there's a lot of people coming in and going out because they think I'm going to tell them that the rapture is going to happen in a few days, or weeks, or months, or something. You can't work with these church people. They're just never going to get it. Maybe some will. I don't know. Probably. But okay, let's go to Daniel 9:24. 70. So the first 70 was Babylon captivity over. The second 70 should be over around the early to mid-March this year. Are determined upon thy people Israel and upon thy holy city. We do have all Israel, all Jerusalem now, to finish the transgression. Well, the ones that are left after the 2/3 are going to get cut off are not going to be doing transgressions. They're going to have for the most part, they're going to, I guess, or all of them, they're going to have the eternal body, which the flesh is not going to war against the spirit with, and they're going to have a heart of flesh with the law written in it. So that's the end of the transgression. Make an end to sins is pretty much the same thing, right? And to make reconciliation for lawlessness. Again, we're in the same, realm. Let's check reconciliation. Kafar, cover, make atonement. Well, we'll have the temple and the tabernacle, and we'll have the sin offerings. And there you go there. That's it. And you're going to say it's Yeshua, yeah, the age of grace. But once we got a tabernacle and a priesthood, which Malachi in chapter 3 trains and teaches, the offerings become acceptable unto the Lord. There'll be a sin offering and a trespass offering. So finish the transgression. Let's see what that word means. Let's see how Strong's treats it. Trespassive. So he uses the word trespassive. So that's probably the trespass offering. To make an end of sins, and that would be kata, which is the sin offering, is what that word references us back to. Um, so that's the sin offering. So you got the trespass offering, the sin offering, and God will receive them because Elijah, these are the days of Elijah. Pray for your eyes and ears on that one. You'll be glad you did. And the make an end, you'll really be glad you did do it. I promise you, you'll be over the moon. The transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for lawlessness. Okay. So we got the trespass offering, we got the sin offering. Reconciliation is kafar, cover. Atonement, cleanse, for iniquity, for lawlessness, and that's sort of in the same genre as what we've been talking about, and to bring in everlasting righteousness. Okay, let's check bring in. To go in, enter, come. Okay, we'll give that a bring in or go in, right? Let's see. Okay, we'll go with that. It's not very complicated. Everlasting, and that's olam. It's everlasting life. I mean, it's using the word everlasting righteousness. Well, yeah, with this new body, you're going to be righteous. You're not going to rebel. You're getting the idea? And to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Well, that'll be the next temple or the tabernacle, with the holies of holies in the tabernacle. So to seal up the, or both, really should be both, because Ezekiel 37, the last three verses says we'll have up both. To seal up interesting choice of words. Seal up the vision. I guess it's the vision he had here. Anoint the most holy. And then we can keep reading. And know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the anointed prince, Messiah means anointed, that's all it is. It's used 104 times in the Bible, maybe 4 times for Yeshua. The rest of the time means anointed. The prince shall be 7 weeks. Well, they screw that up, don't they? Let's see. Sheva, Shavua. I didn't get into this yet. I'll have to work on this. And 62 weeks, the street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. And after 62, oh, whatever they say, what are they calling weeks here? Shavua. It's they don't get it right. It's all screwed up with the timing. Shall Messiah be cut off? Now it's the anointed be cut off, which is the anointed prince in the temple, but not for himself and for the people that shall come. Shall he destroy? It really means defile. The word is 78:48. Corrupt the city, then that's the image that make it jealous, the image of jealousy in the northern gate between the inner and outer courtyards. You can read that in Ezekiel 8-11. Shovel the flood unto the end of war, desolations are determined. Now I got to work this through. Because I'm not sure what this is really I've got to go through this deeper, these passages, but 924, I think we got down pretty good. This is probably speaking of the great day of the Lord, Zechariah 14, Gog and Magog, but I'm not going there yet. I want to get through this. So the next thing I need to do, that's about it, I guess. So you've got a tremendously rich set of scriptures that are Bible logic correct that tie all this together. And that's the way I prefer to do things, but I have to, because we're dealing with things like Shemitahs and Jubilees, I've got to do it with the numbers. So the next piece of the puzzle is to go back. So the 49th year would start on the 1st of Abib, okay? And in year 49, and the Jubilee year would start on the 10th, when they entered the land, the 10th of Abib, with Joshua. So they're two different years in their own right, 9 days apart, but they overlap. Like recompenses and redemption will overlap. So the Lord's been leading me down this, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you think this is hard to follow, trust me, you're correct. It's hard. It's hard. The sowing in the 8th year of, well, we got a problem with that too, don't we? If we're sowing in the 8th year, the Shemitah was still sowing. See, I haven't even resolved that yet. I got more work to do. I got more work to do. My general gut feeling about this right now, you see the 8th year, if we're announcing the Shemitah in September of the 49th year, then it would start in March of the next year, of the same year, because no, it makes no sense. You see, then it would start on March 10th. I'm assuming March 1st is the beginning of the year, which is an assumption. It could be a few days one way or the other. So if it was, the announcement comes in October, I'm sorry, September, the 7th month really is September. Then your Jubilee year wouldn't begin until the 10th of the first month, but the 49th year would be over, and you would be in another year, the 50th year. And that doesn't seem to make sense by some of these people that worked it out. So if that was correct, which I don't think it is, that would bring us to it would start in, let's say, March 2020. Well, if it was last year, the 49th, then it would start in March 2024. Right. Which would still fall within, and that would be the year of redemption, I believe, and that would, because there's a great fit, and that would give us an overlap with the year of recompenses, which will go August to the end of July, and there'd be that overlap, you know. So that's where I think we're at. I got to keep working through the 8th year. Maybe I don't understand it yet. The 8th day, not the 8th year, the 8th day. No, the 8th year, the 8th year. Uh, so if they're sowing, oh, I see the solution. By the time you start sowing in the 8th year, your the you see the Jubilee. Well, forget what I said about the Jubilee, the blowing of the trumpet. See, somebody said the best thing to do is forget the blowing of the trumpet and just work it out. But where I'm going with this is there's only a 9-day difference between the 49th year, the Shemitah year, which would end not on the first of Abib, but the month before, the last day of the month before. So basically, almost like the first of the month would be the day before, and then you have that gap from when that day is over. That would be the 7th year. Then you're in the 8th year again. During Oh, no, I got it straight. All right. It's just so confusing. Your Shemitah and your Jubilee year are only 9 days different. So you don't sow in the 7th year, you sow in the 8th year. So you'd have to wait only 9 days into the 8th year to start sowing. I solved it. Okay, you got that? Your Shemitah and Jubilee are different years, because if you said they were the same year, you'd be robbing 9 days, and you can't do that. It's not a year. So, see how hard this stuff is? It's really hard. For me, the other stuff, like what happens in Zechariah 12, I could do that all day long. That's a piece of cake for me. This stuff, it drives me crazy. So, the 49th year is your Shemitah, and then when that starts, 9 days later, your Jubilee starts. That's the whole thing, and that's why you can be sowing in the 8th year and duck violating the Jubilee year. You just have to wait 9 days, which is no big thing. Wouldn't affect much of anything. Okay, pray for me to get this down better and straighter and clearer. Please pray for that. Please. Okay? I think you're probably really enjoying this. So the bottom thing is, we should be getting into this redemption on or about early March to mid-March. Probably at the very latest, mid-March. And we're probably going to see the two witnesses emerge openly before then. Because getting rid of the yoke, getting rid of the evil leaders and the foreigners that suppress us probably happened before Zechariah 12. And getting rid of them and having a tabernacle and temple and a priesthood with Elijah is probably riling up the world, and they want to come here and kill us, and they lay siege to us. Why don't they invade us? They're probably afraid to. So what they're trying to do is cut the flow of goods. And that's what a siege does. They seal you off so you can't get, food and supplies, and you can't conduct commerce out of the country, and you can't ship goods out and stuff like that. That's probably what they're trying to do in the siege, because that would meet the test of a siege in Zechariah 12 versus an invasion. We invaded Gaza. We went in. We drove our tanks over the border. Boom, boom, boom. Right? Okay, that's an invasion. A siege is you just surround Gaza. We did that too before we went in. Okay? Now, during sieges in the old Dark Ages and the Crusades, they would throw spears over the wall, shoot arrows over the wall. They had catapults that would throw big rocks and fireballs in. That could be part of a siege. But this, Zechariah 12, seems to be more the kind of surrounding to cut us off. So they're likely trying to starve us to death. The goal is death of the Israelites. Let's not kid ourselves. So they're probably trying to starve us out with this siege. Nothing goes in or out. All right. And then when, because they're real nervous about what they saw, and Satan just sends them at us, lies to them, deceives them, whatever. He doesn't care. Maybe they'll kill him. I don't know. Let's try. I don't care about them. They don't do me any good when I'm in the pit. When I get out of the pit, they'll be long dead, So he throws them away. They're disposable assets to him. So they lay the siege to us, and then the two witnesses probably are really close to being in play. By being in play means it says, I will give to my two witnesses. And I'm not going to elaborate what he gives, but included in that would probably be the ability to, some prophecy gift, the spirit of prophecy in a very heavy duty way. Maybe all the gifts of the Spirit with, without measure or close to without measure, just heavy doses of it. So they'd have the gift of faith, and they could call plagues down and all of this stuff. Prophets know a tremendous amount of things because Jehovah gives it to them. Like the guy didn't know where his cow or his sheep was, and the prophet said, well, we'll do this, and then I'll tell you. And then he told them where to go find his livestock, and they were there. Things like this happen, and these guys are sort of kind of like Samson, who was a judge, but way more so. So there's going to be a lot of things they're given, and I would imagine we were awfully close. I'm not getting into this, Tishri is the beginning of it. This doesn't make, it just makes me stumble around. But pray we get more insight into that. Okay, I'm Moshe, my wife's Rivka. Please pray for us for peace, safety, protection, and joy. Healing of our body. Pray for our finances. Thank you for those sending offerings. I appreciate it. Pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole, and me and my wife too, happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And please, please, please pray the Lord helps me to get this really good and smooth and fluid so I can teach it better. And what I'm trying to do is work back to dates in history that we have in the Bible and work things forward. And people have done this with the 49-year cycle, and they come up to 2024. So it would be 2024 to 2025 on Gregorian calendar, because it'll start probably in March, and it'll run until the day before that date in 2025. So it'll flow into Gregorian. But now I'm introducing Gregorian calendar, and I'll really drive you crazy. I find this very hard, okay? Not when I read Zechariah 12 and I see all this meets the test of the Jubilee. That's a piece of cake for me, but these dates, oh man. But the numbers, I don't do good, I don't get it, So prayer will work. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. You got my email address. It's in the chat. It's on the last line down in the description box. But try to listen to this video carefully and take notes. And then if you have questions, come to me. But I'm still studying this, and I'm doing the news and everything. And if I have to really do a large discourse to explain it to you, it's very difficult for me to find the time and the energy. See, like right now, my energy's gone. The best thing for me to do is eat my first meal of the day and hang out with the dogs and just do brainless activity to clear my head. That's what I plan on doing, okay? Because this is just hard. And we got a lot of good confirmations from Bible